We play and call it work.
Hey there guys, Quirk here with Josh and Clarence from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to the Reroll! Yeah, we're going to do a special episode for you guys. We're going to go over the rumors that have been coming out for 8th edition. We are super excited to see basically what's been coming down the pipeline. Josh has actually kept a very, very close ear to the ground for this one, so he's going to kind of walk us through it. I have not read anything on what's coming out, so this is going to be the first time I've heard a lot of these rumors, a lot of these things, aside from, like, you know, the odd thing here and there. And Clarence, you've been keeping track a little bit?
Yeah, pretty close, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to basically be the guy asking all the really dumb questions, being like, well, how does it work for this? How does it work for that? So we're basically going to take it away. It's going to be 30 minutes here and then 30 minutes in the vault as we continue the discussion. And what we're going to be doing is going straight through the Warhammer community website and just looking at stuff that they've released, talking about it, and basically giving our opinion on it. So, 30 minutes.
Boop. Okay, so let's start off. So the first thing that they really came out with after they announced, they showed us the new map, but, you know, they didn't really talk that much about it. The first thing that we really saw rules-wise, which is kind of where I want to focus a little bit for this, is the profiles, the new profiles. Mm-hmm. So immediately we see a couple big changes. They show a Dreadnought.
Yep.
With no armor values, just a toughness value. Mm-hmm. The other big thing that we see is that they've gotten rid of the initiative values. And then the weapon skill, ballistic skill are now flat values.
Right.
So give me your guys' thoughts on that to get started. Well, starting with, let's say, the Dreadnoughts. No more armor value, toughness value.
I think that's great. So right now I'm playing a lot of 30K, and I just mentioned to my friend, I was like, you know, it's weird. If you have a quad mortar battery shooting a Dreadnought, it's strength 8 Sunder. It'll pretty much destroy a Dreadnought, no problem. But if you shoot a squad of Custodes, it'll just tickle the Custodes, because toughness 5 with 2 wounds, can't be one-shotted. And I was like, that's just weird. These things can shatter a Dreadnought, but can't kill a Custodes reliably. That's just not consistent. So there is that kind of weird, what's the word? Like, this weird break of, like, the illusion of these tank shells will not kill humans when they will just blow up vehicles. So I'm glad it's more consistent.
Right. I mean, I think before, though, the way, because armor value harkens all the way back to almost the start of this.
Yeah.
Where it was the way to represent, you know, small arms fire not being able to damage something. Mm-hmm. But what was it? I believe it was 3rd edition is when they changed the Wraithlord over to being a toughness value.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the Dreadnoughts have just been kind of out there in the wind.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird and awkward. And the same I look at for 30K. To use that as an example, I play Cybernetica, my Mechanicum, which is all monstrous creatures.
Right.
So yeah, most of those anti-tank weapons, I don't fear them a whole lot because they get no additional bonuses of a monstrous creature.
Right. And if we wound you, you don't lose effectiveness. You don't get shaken or lose a weapon or get immobilized. You still fight at full power until your last wound's removed. Right? So that's kind of weird in current 40K. A Rhino or Predator takes damage and it gets worse significantly, but monster creatures don't.
Right, and the capability to just one-shot a tank.
Right.
I mean, it's cool when it happens, but yeah, I totally agree with it. I can't see any reason to keep armor values. I actually have been saying for a long time, I'm a big fan of the way Bolt Action does it, which they've went a different direction with this, but obviously almost anything can hurt almost anything.
Right, yeah.
You know, and it's one single value. They don't have to, when they design a new weapon, they don't have to look at, well, how's it going to affect vehicles compared to monstrous creatures and infantry, things with the toughness value. I think it's awesome. Quirk, anything for Orc Dreadnoughts or anything like that? What do you think?
Well, I'm just looking at the stat line right now. Like, I do like the idea of having a toughness value for everything because it feels very, and this is just, again, this is the first time I've looked at this, and the immediate response that I have is, I'm now thinking how this kind of correlates with the Age of Sigmar, like Fantasy to Age of Sigmar transition.
Yeah.
So when everything kind of transitioned in Fantasy from 8th edition to Age of Sigmar, a lot of the bigger things, like for example, you've got your Maw Crushers, you've got your named characters, you've got all these larger things now have a crazy amount of wounds, whereas before it was like, okay, they only have like
4 or 5 wounds.
Four or five wounds,
yeah.
But they're incredibly difficult to take down, but you could theoretically take them down with like a crazy spell or something like that.
Cannonball, something like that.
Yeah, whereas now there's nothing really that's going to one-shot them. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing that here where you have a Dreadnought that's got 8 wounds. Yeah. So that's crazy. It's toughness 7, 8 wounds. So right off the hop with that, I'm thinking, okay, Dreadnoughts are now a little more survivable. We will probably see more of them on the table in the future because right now a lot of people, they don't bring Dreadnoughts because you're right, they can be one-shotted. It's not difficult for someone to get a lucky melt-a-bomb, a lucky melt-a-gun, anything like that. It just takes 1/6 and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I do like the look of that. One thing that I'm noticing right here is they have a movement value.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
again,
that's
this
the
is
other thing I forgot to
I was
mention. They
saying,
brought
this
back movement
This is the
values.
first time I've looked at these stat lines. So I'm seeing here, I see like the M6, and I'm like, okay, that's got to be the movement value. And then working my way across it, you've got like your weapon skill, ballistic skill. It's not a static number anymore. It's a 3+. So I'm assuming that's like a 3+ to hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hit everybody on 3s unless they have a special rule that says you hit them on 1 less than you normally would.
Okay. So again, that basically is another comparison that I can make to Age of Sigmar, which is the stat lines went from, okay, well, what's your ballistic skill? What's your weapon skill? Okay, what's your opponent's weapon skill? What's the distance? What's
Look
this?
at
What's
this
that?
chart, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's do some chart checking right now and see everything. All right, well, your ballistic skill 3, you're hitting on 4s because that's what this chart says. Oh, okay, you're strength 4 and I'm toughness 3, well, you're wounding on 3s. That's what this chart says. I like this being, okay, well, what's your weapon skill? Well, it's a Dreadnought, it hits on 3s.
Yeah.
It's what ballistic skill, or weapon skill is 3, so it's hitting on 3s. It doesn't matter who it's fighting. It has its own level of weapon, ability in close combat, and it doesn't get modified by who it's fighting.
Right.
So I do like the look of that. I'm not sure how strength, I'm assuming the strength value is going to kind of correlate a little bit with the to wound. There might be a chart there.
They touch on that a little bit later, but it's the same basic concept.
Okay.
They have changed it to.
It's more streamlined.
It is much more streamlined, but we'll
Yeah.
get to that in a little bit. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the same basic concept of the stronger you are, the easier you wound
Yeah.
something, that still stands.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I do like that. I like the idea of a Dreadnought having 8 wounds. It makes me think like, okay, you know what? I want to bring a Dreadnought now because it will survive more than 1 round of combat unless somebody dedicates a lot of shooting to it.
Yeah.
Or a lot of melee to it, or dedicates something to it as opposed to, oh, okay, you know what? I've got this one vehicle in the background that's really good at popping tanks. Or, for example, like you said, I've got the 30K, I've got my battery that can just rip apart a vehicle.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, okay, I got this battery, it can rip apart a vehicle, but it's not as easy as I got 1 lucky hit, I rolled a 6, you blew up.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the other one I want to talk about with the toughness value, and I want your guys' opinion on this real quick. As far as we know, looking at this, they have done away with armor values as far as facings.
Yeah.
What do you guys think on that?
It's great. Because with some weird vehicles, like that are strangely shaped, for example, a lot of Tau vehicles have weird like T-shape or like a Viper. Where exactly is the front and the side, determined? When does the rear begin, right? It's
Well,
not-
especially with like Necron vehicles because they're round.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to determine, and I just don't want the arguing, the abstraction. It's much easier just to play when it doesn't matter. So I like this way more.
So I'm assuming facing might still be a thing in the new edition, but I'm also thinking I'd like the idea of no longer having to worry about the way your Rhino's facing,
Yeah.
or the way your Dreadnought's facing, or
Yeah.
the way whatever vehicle you have is facing. Now I'm not sure if it still applies for like transports and vehicles like that, but from the Dreadnought, I'm guessing it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, later on they do talk about it. And again, it'll pop up at some point, but they said, yeah, vehicles, no more armor value for anything.
Oh, okay, cool.
They haven't talked about facing or anything like that, and I don't know if it's because they haven't talked about it yet or because it's not a thing anymore. I can't say for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to?
Get that.
That's not me.
It's me.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
whatever. Anyway, so continuing on from that, it's yeah, I like the idea of having a toughness value and wounds and things like that. Anything else going on with the Dreadnoughts? Or
So I wanted
sorry,
to
go
say,
ahead.
what Josh brought up is the flip side is now small arms can hurt your Dreadnought. So they can hurt it on a 6 typically, like a las gun or even a grot pistol can hurt you on a 6. How do you guys feel about that?
it makes I
How
think
about that?
I think Horde armies are going to start seeing a comeback here because people are going to start going for volume of fire. Suddenly, volume of fire is viable against all targets.
It will. I mean, later on, they use the example of, and I mean, we'll get to this in a couple of minutes when we look at the chart and some of the vehicles. I think they did the math on a Lehman Russ versus bolters, and it was more than 500 bolter shots to kill a Russ, or
Kill
to
Russ,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea that certain weapons can take a couple wounds off here and there, I don't mind that at all.
No.
That's fine with me.
So with that, it kind of makes me a little bit curious because if they're eliminating armor values, that means they're probably going to be eliminating a lot of the special rules for armor. Like you got Tank Hunter, you got Armor Bane, you got Melta, you got.
Well, Melta has a rule still.
Yeah, Melta will come up
Yeah.
later. They have included a Melta rule. Now, a couple other things that are mentioned in this article is that they've said, let me think, the two other ones here, they are no longer capping stats at 10.
Ooh, okay.
Right.
So you can go beyond 10 for any of your stats.
Wounds will probably be the big one that jumps past 10.
Yeah, wounds for sure. I'm curious if they do that with certain strength value stuff too, like strengths and toughnesses, if you get into the real big stuff.
True, because like the Dreadnought's toughness 7 right now.
The Dreadnought is, toughness 7.
So that's currently armor 12. Let's imagine a Land Raider. Will a Land Raider get more toughness or more wounds or both?
I personally assume both.
And let's say it's both. Will that mean that, let's say a Knight will be strength 12 maybe, so they can wound a Land Raider in close combat easier? Because it shouldn't wound a Land Raider in a 4, should it? With its D weapon? Or maybe the D weapon will have its own rules. Yep. Who knows?
Yeah, so I mean, they did drop that nugget, but they haven't talked about it that much.
Yeah.
The other one here, 2 wound Terminators.
Ooh.
Finally.
Good.
Finally.
I know, it's been...
Finally.
Waiting for so long for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see the Terminators have still got their 2-up save.
Yep.
They're a little bit slower than a regular Marine on foot. Otherwise, the stats are the same. They get an extra attack. They get an extra point of leadership, but they get 2 wounds each.
Okay.
Which is pretty darn nice for me.
That might mean that we're going to see Terminators a lot more on the field because, like, for example, right now we're seeing Custodies all over the place because they're 2 up with 2 wounds.
Yeah. And
they are a pain to get rid of. And I remember going back many, many editions ago, Terminators were a pain to get rid of because AP2 wasn't really a thing.
Not common.
No, so you had to basically get the guy to roll a 1, and it was next to impossible to do that. So, unless it was me rolling.
So we're going to continue on now. We're going to go to the next article, and it's going to talk about the weapons a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some stats for a couple of the common weapons they've shown us here. First of all, we have a flamer with an 8-inch range.
Okay.
Nothing changes because the template's 8 inches.
Okay.
But it is Assault D6.
Oh.
It's Strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I'm drawing a lot of lines there between Age of Sigmar and the new stat lines for that. Like, my guess from that is that they're trying to take away templates.
Yep.
Yeah, templates are gone.
They're completely gone? That's been confirmed?
Gone.
Okay.
Get out of the game, templates are gone.
Thank goodness. I'm sorry, looking back and being like, okay, I'm so used to templates, and then you play Age of Sigmar, and it's like, oh, this is essentially a template attack, but it does D3 damage, or it does D6 damage. I like that better.
It's faster, it's more accurate.
Yes. A flamer with an 8-inch range doing D3, that's really cool.
D6.
Or D6, sorry. Oh, D6, okay. So that kind of changes things a little bit, though, because does that mean if you flamer 1 model, does it hit the guy D6 times?
Yep. Yes.
Ooh. That's cool.
And then it's got an ability listed that this weapon automatically hits its target.
Okay.
So pretty.
So yeah, that a stat line going from that, like I haven't heard of any of the other ones, but going from that is essentially what I would imagine a flamer to work like. Like you don't have to roll to hit, so you don't have to worry about that. It's going to do like a random amount of damage because it's fire. It's that. And the fact they're taking away the whole template things means you don't have to be like, oh, am I over that model? Am I not over that model? Oh, you nudged my model.
Template.
Oh, so.
Yeah.
So that one, yeah, because I'm thinking like Burna Boys, that kind of stuff. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
it kind of makes a difference. The next weapon, pretty simple, 24-inch range. It's the bolt gun, the iconic bolt gun. Rapid fire 1.
Yeah, we don't know what that really means yet, right?
We're not sure because we haven't seen rapid fire 2 or anything else. I don't believe. Yes, but then you must continue to read the stats, sir.
So it's
I'm totally
24
fine with that. So we got 24 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP 0, damage. I guess that's what the D stands for. Okay, damage 1. The only thing that comes to mind for rapid fire, if it says rapid fire 1, that may be the kind of the way they're doing like sustained fire in Armageddon, where it's like rapid fire 1 means like 1 D3.
See, I thought about that, but then you got a whole squad of bolt guns shooting, and they seem to be trying to streamline the game
Make it faster.
and make it quicker. So,
So then in that case, would that mean, okay, you've got a unit of 10 guys, all with rapid fire, so do you roll like 10D, using that rule, would you roll 10D3, or is it going to like accumulate to, okay, you roll 1D3
Times
and
10.
and then times 10?
See, I don't know, man. I think there's something completely different than that. I don't think there's going to be a roll for how many shots it's going to make.
I don't know.
Well, let's imagine this. Rapid Fire 1 we don't know, but what would Rapid Fire 2 look like? So maybe it's
2D3?
like 1 shot at maximum range, and then at 12 inches you get an extra shot based on X. So Rapid Fire 1, you get
Sure,
one
that
extra
could work.
shot.
Yep.
Yep.
Rapid Fire 2, you get 2, so you get 3 shots at 12 inches with Rapid Fire 2 essentially.
So you're talking about the shots at half range. It's
Correct.
Be,
How many
okay.
extra shots? That
Okay.
is. Yeah, that could be it. Who knows?
Yep.
We don't know yet. They haven't announced it, but
Okay.
Now the next one I like. The next one's the interesting one.
So we have a last cannon here. It's range 48. It's heavy 1, strength 9, AP -3, damage D6.
very interesting profile.
So starting right off,
Very interesting.
name last cannon. We know that range makes sense. Type heavy 1.
So again, how many shots you're going to make, I guess?
So again, would that accumulate to like the heavy 1 means like a heavy D3? Would that be following the same type of profile as like what I'm originally thinking?
Probably.
Or
I think single shot. It's the rapid fire that's throwing me off.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Strength 9.
Yep.
So that's
Same.
Yeah, that's the same. AP -3.
So Marines will get a save in the open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's huge. So this is, like, I've been very critical for, well, since I've started playing Warhammer, of the AP system.
Right.
That it doesn't make sense. The all or nothing approach, I
Right.
never liked it.
Yep.
Because that's where, so many cool units like Terminators and that kind of stuff were useless because there's so much AP too. So the fact that you can, doing the AP system this way, I think will allow them to make other more interesting units.
Yep.
It'll open up the door for them.
For sure. And it adds more for easily adaptable rules, like things that would modify an AP value, or things that would improve it, or spells that it's like all your ranged weapons get +1 AP, or the damage you take from a weapon is -1 to the AP value.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because right now we pretty much measure units two ways. You're either an MEQ, Marine equivalent,
Yep.
or a GEQ, anything else. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not very cool, right? Now your armor save makes a difference. If it's a 4+, it means something. If it's a 5+, it actually means something.
Yep.
So the granality
difference.
is big, yeah.
So, I mean, that for me makes some big differences because all of a sudden that Dreadnought now, well, 2 last cannons can still take him down.
yep.
Yes. But on average dice, you don't, because average dice is only 7 wounds, right? So that's kind of
Correct.
cool.
So I'm a big fan of that one. Yeah, they talk about, Burna Boys. The other thing, too, they've removed the Strength 10, but they've also gotten rid of D weapons.
So they've eliminated D weapons altogether.
Well, that's not too surprising because obviously the game's different. But like, so what a D cannon now shoots, what a Wraith Guard now shoots, it'll have its own rules and it'll probably be rude, right? So it won't be D.
It'll still be crazy.
But
Yeah.
it'll still be crazy. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that really changes.
Okay.
All right, next we're going to go ahead. We'll take a look at movement here. So, yeah, we know everybody has a movement value. They talk about minimum moves. Now we're going to talk about running has been rolled into the movement phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's you can advance. When you move by rolling a dice and adding the result to your movement to go a bit faster at the expense of shooting.
Okay.
Just like you do, Sigmar.
Yep.
And that's going to be for infantry, vehicles, bikes, everyone.
That's a little weird, right? Because
So-
like
okay,
bikes
sorry.
currently can sacrifice shooting to turbo boost 12,
Correct.
but now they'll just run D6 just like infantry. So that does feel weird that it doesn't scale.
They might get something for that where it's like 2d6 or
Maybe, yeah.
like
They
it
might
might be infantry run a d6 or vehicles go 2d6, fast vehicles
Well-
go 3d6, something like that.
Yeah, they haven't announced it's D6 currently, but maybe you'll have an extra rule.
You could
that-
do the individual rules for all that. They might say, Eldar jet bikes get this.
Yeah.
Right.
That.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing that they mentioned in this article is if you're in combat at the start of your turn, you can fall back by moving away from the enemy. You lose the ability to advance, shoot, or charge that turn, and crucial enemies will be able to shoot at you. This does, however, open up a vast range of tactical options for armies like the Astra Militarum. So what do we think?
My knee-jerk reaction is I don't like this rule. I don't like this rule
Really?
because right now combat armies aren't very good in 40k, and we would love to see them make a comeback in 8th edition. Now we haven't seen all the rules for combat yet, but my gut reaction is if your opponent charges you, it doesn't kill you, that's good because now they can't get shot, right? But if you now have the option to voluntarily fall back with no severe penalty and unload with the rest of your army, that's bad news for assault armies.
You
That
think
makes
so?
me nervous.
Okay.
Now this might be looking at some of the other rules I know that are coming up. I looked at it for assault armies. I am A-okay with that.
Okay.
The ability that if one of your squads gets kind of caught up somewhere, you can get them out of dodge to make room for your assaulty units to go in, or the fact that you don't have people. It's tougher to have that throwaway unit that's going to go tie something up if you're an assaulty army.
So give me an example, for example.
Okay, so it might not be the best example, but I'm looking at what people will currently do with the Dreadnought, where they will assault your killy close combat unit with a Dreadnought
Yep.
and tie you up there, keep you tied up, you're stuck there.
Right. Right, so that sucks
Yeah.
for the Dreadnought, right?
And only under
No, it
certain-
doesn't- no, I'm saying it sucks for the
for the
assault
unit.
squad.
So say for example you've got a unit where they
No, I'm
are
saying if you can fall back, that Dreadnought made it into combat.
No, but we're saying the opposite right now. So imagine right now, for example, we take Night Lords
Yeah.
who fearless
Yep.
get charged by a Dreadnought. They are
Yep.
not strong enough to hurt that Dreadnought. They are now
Right.
stuck in combat with that Dreadnought forever.
Yes.
Well, they get our weapons are useless, but I mean, if you go into
But no, you
Case
can't
it.
you can't do our weapons are useless if you're fearless.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So
Right.
that's the counter argument to that now, where it's
Right.
like, okay, if you get in that situation,
Yeah.
you can back up and have something else in your army
yeah,
take
you
care
know,
of that
your
unit.
giant unit of
Yeah,
corn
shoot it.
berserkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Or you can shoot it, you can have something else charge it, but the thing is,
But you can always charge it. If
yep, but the negative to that is that you're gonna shut down a unit. Basically, if you're the person who charged and your opponent opts to walk away from combat, they are forfeiting their shooting and their assault for that unit for this turn.
Right, but they would have been locked anyway. So they would have been forfeiting that anyhow.
But they would have gotten to attack.
Sure, but odds are if my assault you'd gotten to combat, I'm happy you're not happy in combat. Right? So that's what I'm saying.
Now the flip side too is I'm not going to be surprised if certain units have a special rule that says even after they fall back, they can still assault.
And they shall know no fear?
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah. We've already seen some Tau stuff.
Right, they've shown some Tau stuff. They can shoot when they fall back.
Oh, see, assault armies.
I don't know, man. I'm thinking assault armies, after reading some of this stuff, are going to be much more viable than they were before.
Well, maybe you'll tell me some stuff later on.
That's just me here. Okay, we're going to jump over to the psychic phase now.
Ooh.
So they are completely revamping the psychic phase.
That's
good.
Good.
Things like Magnus.
Yeah.
So each time you pick a psyker, you can cast as many spells as their data sheet states.
Okay, so it's kind of the same as a mastery level?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's a simpler 2-dice mechanic for casting. You just need to beat the warp charge value.
This sounds familiar.
Where have I heard this rule before?
Age of Sigmar.
Here's the thing now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think your cough covered that up. You had to
Yeah,
say Sigmar.
that was weird. Enemy psychers will then have a chance to block these powers if they're within 24. And again, the mastery of the psyker will dictate how often they can block a power each turn. So they're talking about the scalability of it.
Okay.
Because there's no more, I'm going to bring a ton of psychers to the board and get more dice, but have Magnus cast everything.
Yeah.
Right.
No more of that kind of battery thing. Because I remember, Clarence, you're going to know this better than me. Was it 5th or 6th edition fantasy? That was the Lizardman thing.
That was 6th.
It was 6th, yeah. Where you would just bring your
You
Slan
just buy
Mage
power
Priest.
dice.
Yeah.
By buying Old Mage Priest to power the Slan.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
So they seem to be eliminating that. What do you guys, give me some overall thoughts.
I think it's fine if they keep the rule of 1 from Age of Sigmar, meaning you can't spam the same spell over and over and over again.
Right.
That would be key. Because if you could just keep on smiting, for example, smiting is a really nasty spell over and over and over again, it just has mortal wounds, that would be really sick.
Okay, so leading into that, each faction is going to have its own psychic lore with a range of thematic powers. In addition, every psyker knows the smite power. It is a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, the closest visible enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds.
I'm sorry, suffers what?
D3 mortal wounds.
Just like Age of Sigmar, no saves.
If the result of the psychic test was more than 10, the target suffers D6 mortal wounds instead.
D6 mortal wounds.
So, a couple of things to make note of here. And this is one actually I didn't realize. If manifested, the closest visible enemy unit within 18.
Oh,
so,
you don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's the closest thing. I have missed that up until I just read that out loud right now.
Yeah.
I thought you could just pick somebody within 18 and just smite you.
Okay, that's a little more fair.
Now, the order of phases is still like movement, psychic, shooting, assault?
We assume so.
We think, but we're not 100% sure
Okay,
here.
because if that's the case, you can kind of manipulate that smite rule a little bit by moving around closer to a viable target.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that they mention here for me, and guys, I realize we might be skipping some stuff here. It'll all come out in the wash one way or the other. We'll talk about it all. Mortal wounds are a new mechanic. They cannot be saved by any means and punch straight through thick armor and even invulnerable saves. So, no invuln saves.
Okay.
That's a cool way to take off the last couple of wounds off like a Dreadnought, for example, right? Because if you're struggling to kill that Dreadnought, but you've blast canned a couple of times, the smite could finish it off.
Now, this leads me into saying, what the heck are invuln saves now?
Right, we don't know yet, nor have they announced it.
So, I'm curious to see, because that they haven't talked about.
Okay. Any guesses?
I mean, if they keep it the same as is and just say you have a 5+ save that can't be modified, that might be fine.
I'm thinking, they might say like the rend or something like that can never get worse than that. So if Terminators have a 5-up invuln, no matter how much they modify their save by, it can't get worse than a 5-up, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But you know what happens when you assume.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Next, let's go over to shooting phase. So we've already seen the basic profiles and all that.
Ooh, cool changes here.
When you select a unit to shoot, much like today, they can fire all their weapons at the enemy. You can't shoot, however, if you advance this turn or if you fell back from combat. Okay, we already know that. That makes sense.
That's nothing new.
But you also can't shoot if there's an enemy within 1 inch of you. The exception to this rule is pistols. Models with these handheld firearms can shoot at the closest enemy target in the shooting phase, even if they themselves are locked in combat. What do we think?
So basically it means that you're not going to be losing out on a phase if you're locked in combat, as long as you have pistols.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I like that.
And this thankfully gives a perk to assault armies, because most assault units have pistols, which means they'll get an extra round of attacks, hopefully.
Yeah, I like it.
Continuing on, you won't be able to shoot enemies that are in combat with other units, much like the current edition.
Okay.
However, you can fall back from combat in your movement phase, allowing other units to fire at the opponent. Oh, okay. We're split on that one.
Yeah.
Heavy weapons. They no longer fire snapshots. Instead, they have a flat -1 to hit for moving units.
Okay. That's actually
Vehicles
really cool.
as well.
Ooh, I didn't know they said that. So that means like a dreadnought moving and shooting is -1 to hit. Or
Unless
a tank.
he has a special rule that says otherwise, yeah.
But that'd be weird. They'd say vehicles included, and then say, but not vehicles.
Well, I mean, like an individual vehicle might have a special rule that
Yeah.
says,
Yeah, certain
they get to
vehicles,
ignore it.
like a Baneblade or something like that.
They'll have like some sort of rule like Relentless or something.
Yeah.
That it's currently there. But I like that you can have people walking around with heavy weapons firing at not 6s.
I don't know how I feel about that, because I liked it when you had to make a choice. I sacrificed movement to get better shots. Now it's like I can eat my cake and have it too.
Yep.
See, I love cake. See, I don't mind. I don't know. I tend to play in mixed armies too, and I don't mind the fact that I can advance up the board or move up the board with my heavy bolter in my tactical squad and still be able to light something up and not have to completely give it a
It's
shooting
cool.
up.
I like the fact I can shoot more. Right? I'm just saying tactically, it's not as hard to make a decision now. It's like, I can move or shoot. Well, I can do both.
Yeah. It's not. I don't think it's still kind of there. It's like, okay, do I fire my early ballistic skill or do I readjust to get better shooting, but I'm hitting on -1 now. There is still
Small penalty.
There's a small penalty. It's
Yeah.
not as hard of a decision of like it's not as obvious as a decision
Yeah.
as do I, for example, a heavy weapons team. Do I fire at this unit over here with only 3 of my guys hitting on 3s, or do I move my other 2 guys over and they're hitting on 6s, and the other guys who didn't move are hitting on 3s, and all this other junk? It's okay. Let's just readjust everything, and everybody's hitting on 4s.
Yeah. I guess it creates more action, and that's probably more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. The other thing that they talked about here is the changes to cover. So currently cover saves give you a blanket save. Cover saves, again, were one of the things I hated in 40K. I thought they were silly, the way they implemented them.
Yeah.
So new cover saves, they give you a bonus to your armor.
Okay.
Great.
And that's it.
It's really good. Because like before, if you had a squad of Marines shooting at Guardsmen in cover, and they're both in cover, let's say, the Guardsmen got a bonus, but the Marines didn't. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense.
Why don't Marines get some sort of bonus for taking advantage of a tree or a log or a ruin, right? So now they have a 2+ save. That's pretty rude, It actually, rewards them for putting themselves in a good position.
Yep.
Well, it also means your Marines in any kind of cover got a 2-up save now.
That's pretty sweet.
If you're shooting at them with any kind of weapon that doesn't have any sort of...
Like any type of AP.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be a weird transition trying to talk about AP now with a negative modifier, not just a flat AP 3. Oh, I'm dead. No, it's AP
I'm
-3.
so excited for it. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I wondered how that would interact with vehicles and stuff.
I'm assuming it would modify their save.
Probably, but will they have rules like the whole thing's going to be in terrain?
The only thing that they've really said so far is they said that certain types of terrain can only be taken advantage of by certain types of models.
Oh, okay.
So, like, craters can only be taken advantage of by infantry, they said.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
if you have an Imperial Knight on a crater, +1 save! That'd be kind of rude.
You
be
can't
kinda
see my
silly.
front toe.
Yeah, exactly.
Next article we got here is the charge phase.
Ooh. So there is still a charge phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it still said there was a psychic phase too. So we assume the phases.
So we're still
gonna
gonna have the 4 phases.
Sounds like
Should
it.
be.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
The basic mechanics of this phase are very similar to how they work now. You can select any unit within 12 as the target of your charge, and your units will move towards them 2d6. Enemy units will have a chance to hit the charging units with Overwatch. Flat 6 should be familiar for everybody. In this new edition, you don't have to get into base contact. You need to come within 1 inch of the enemy to successfully charge.
Okay, so if you're 12 inches away, then you just need an 11 to make that charge.
Right.
Okay. So that's a little bit weird though for trying to figure stuff out, because like out of habit right now, everybody's used to measuring base to base. So it's like, okay, this is a 7-inch charge, and you roll the 6. You're like, oh, I missed it by 1 inch. Now you're going to be able to pull it off because you just have to get within that inch.
I think we'll get over it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Being an AOS player, yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
fair.
cool.
We'll get over
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The 1 inch makes more sense than the 3 inch kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other one here, you also can't move within 1 inch of an enemy you didn't declare as the target of your charge. So if you want to engage multiple units, you need to brave the Overwatch fire of them all. Overwatch can also be fired multiple times per phase, but as soon as the units engage, they will no longer be able to fire back.
That's a little weird.
You think so?
Well, no, I think that makes a little bit more sense. I'm sorry I'm cutting you off here, but
right,
I have always imagined people being like, oh, they're coming at us, and then see somebody else. They're not going to be like, oh, well, we shot at them, so we're not going to shoot at them. It's, okay, oh, there's a more viable threat, let's just keep firing.
Yeah, so I guess what I
That
mean
makes
is,
more sense to me.
what I mean is, let's say I have a unit, I charge you, you overwatch. Do then I declare unit's going to charge also, or to resolve this charge and then touch you, and now you're engaged and you can't overwatch anymore? Like, how does the order of operations work, which we don't really know yet, I don't think.
Yeah, they're not 100% on it. I think this is mostly for things like, I remember playing against Matthew Plenty where he's got a single termagant left.
Right.
Because there's no such thing as a termagant, right?
Yeah.
So a single termagant left, and he charges that to eat the overwatch
Right.
so his other squad can go in. I think that's to eliminate that kind
I
of
see.
thing.
Yeah.
So you kill the gaunt, and they can still overwatch against the next unit.
Exactly.
Well, it stops, from that one last guy just eating
that's
all the
pretty
Overwatch
cool.
fire.
Yeah,
That's the way I'm looking at
it.
it.
It definitely would hurt a lot of horde armies. Like, I've done that a number of times with orcs where I'm like, okay, I got one lone boy here. Let's have him try and attempt to charge to eat
Right.
the Overwatch.
He was going to die anyways.
So
That's pretty
basically,
cool.
it stops your opponent from making the decision
Okay,
of,
that
okay,
can
do
be
I
wrong.
want to have to waste my Overwatch
Yeah.
to shoot this one guy, or do I want to risk not shooting at him and shoot at the unit over here?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's less, I guess, annoying risk reward type stuff. So, but anyway, that is our 30 minutes.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah, that does go pretty quick.
Yeah, especially when you're excited about what you talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm really excited.
All right, do you want to give us a closing?
I suppose I will, Quirk.
You can,
See
you
guys.
can say no.
No, you do it then.
All right. So there you go, guys. If you're already a Vault member, go ahead and click the link below. If you're not already a Vault member, you can go ahead and click that link. You'll be given access to a free trial to see the next half of this reroll episode, where we're going to be continuing our conversation and going through the rest of the rumor mill. Well, not rumor mill. These aren't rumors anymore. These are confirmed.
The Games Workshop.
This is
leaks,
Games Workshop
the
leaking, being
releases.
like, hey guys, just so you know, check this stuff out.
Preview, not a
Yeah.
leak. Leak implies
Yeah.
no control.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was-
I guess, how would you...
I don't know.
Preview.
Preview, all right.
Preview? Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're going to
preview
continue
works.
to go through the GW preview of 8th edition, talking about all the other stuff that's coming out. I have no idea what's going on. I'm excited about everything. Shooting, assaulting, psychic, movement, I love all of it. I like the new weapon profiles. Hopefully you guys do. So first off, guys, leave us a comment in the comment section below to let us know what you think of what's coming out with 8th edition. What are you excited for? What are you not happy about? What rumors have you heard outside of the GW preview stuff that you want us to know about or think we should be interested in? And otherwise, guys, go ahead and click that link below. We will see you in the vault. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, happy
As
wargaming.
always.
Thank you. Happy wargaming.